Hello, everybody. My name is Ashley Hunt. I teach the PMP classes here at Stormwind Studios, and I've been getting a lot of emails from folks about the project charter. Why is it so important? How do I develop my own? Where can I get information on the headers that go into a project charter? So I thought I'd answer some of those questions so that you have them in case you decide to implement your own project charter in your own organization. First of all, I wanted to talk about what happens before a project charter is created. Like, what's going on in the background? And then, what is a charter? What goes into it? Why is it so important? And how can I create my own so that you have the headers to refer to in case you want to develop your own project charter? First things first, what goes into the background of an organization in order to determine to charter a project? First things first, a statement of work is created. This could be from a customer who's internal or external, or an organization that's trying to prove what it is that they're trying to do. First of all, it shows initially what success looks like, and it explains what the end result could or should be. Then we have to make some financial decisions. This would be by developing a business case. A lot of times financial decisions are done on the front end. The company wants to know, is this looking good for us financially? What's our net present value? What's our payback period? Initially, what's our return on investment? And the last piece of this could be an agreement. This is a contract, could be signed by an external customer, an internal customer. It's not a necessity to charter a project to have that, but if an agreement is in place and the customer has hired us to run the project for them, then an agreement might be necessary. It's negotiated in advance of the project charter creation. But I also wanted to talk about what goes into a charter. What's the breakdown of the headers? First things first, it's going to document the project description and the purpose. Why are we doing this? What does success look like? What is our organizational strategy and objectives? This could come from the statement of work and be better defined at this point. The business case. We're going to take all of that front-end information and document it in the project charter so that we can double check and make sure that it's good for the health or financial health of the organization. This is usually financial in nature, and it will define sometimes the initial budgetary constraints. We also want to document the business requirements. These are going to be very high level because we haven't yet kicked off the project and yet have not begun planning. We also have initial risk events. This is going to be important to document because you're going to want to know what are the categories of currently identified risks. Is it project management risk, weather risk, political risk, quality risk, all of that? And if there are any possible responses at this point, then we can make that determination now. Constraints and assumptions. Constraints are anything that bind us. So if we have a scope constraint, a time constraint, a cost constraint, a quality constraint, we want to know that on the front end. And then any assumptions that we're making, as in who the initial stakeholders are or will be for the project. Deliverables and milestones. We want to start looking at the major deliverables of this project and also when it will be delivered. Certainly milestones can change as we start to develop our schedule and the consequent baseline, but at this point, it's a good idea to know our jumping off point, our midpoint, and our end point. Who is the project manager and what's your authority level? This is super important because it gives you the level of authority on the project. Are you managing the budgets? Are you managing the schedule? Are you negotiating for resources? We need to know that so that we can use that authority and begin kicking off our project and planning. Life cycle methodology and tools. This is typically the organizational process assets. It's driven by your organizational process, but it could be any software or tools and techniques that are known at this point. And finally, we want to get that signature from the sponsor. Remember, they're the key stakeholder that signs off on the checks and works with the financial side of paying for the project. They're going to be the ones that sign off on the charter to give you that formal authorization. So organizational process assets, the thing with this is that every organization has OPAs. And this could be whatever's driving the process or going on in the background of your organization. Now, your organizational process assets may not currently use a project charter. Maybe they use an agreement. a statement of work. But how change control works, financial control, defect management, how you kick off or close out your project could drive whether or not a project charter is even deemed necessary in your organization. But the only way to change best practices is to update organizational process assets. And so if you don't currently have a charter in place, this might be a way of updating best practices in your organization. Why is a charter important? Well, it allows everybody to determine what success looks like. It gives you, the project manager, a formal authorization to begin project work. It's your ticket to ride the roller coaster of project management. And the organization and the customer can be on the same page before planning begins. It's enough information to begin kicking off, identifying stakeholders, and then begin planning out the rest of the project. According to the Project Management Institute, a project cannot begin without a charter. So that's important just as far as exam information is concerned. All right, so how can you create your own charter? A lot of times I'll get this question. It's something that you almost have to go in and say, can I be involved in the creation of the charter? Can we do this on the next project as a best practice? Try and ask if you can be part of the business case development if you have a good background in financial management. Make sure the charter and the business case, though, are aligning for the health of the organization, especially financially. Try and assess risks and stakeholders and expectations early, and make sure that you clearly understand your authority level on the project itself by getting that signature from the sponsor. How can you create your own? You can use these headers to get started. These are basic headers found in every single charter. It's probably maybe 2 pages long at most, maybe 3, it depends. But you'll describe the project description and the purpose, the business case, business requirements, initial risk events, constraints and assumptions, deliverables and milestones, your authority level as a project manager, life cycle methodologies and tools. And don't forget to get that authorization signature. Hopefully this helped you out a little bit, and if you do decide to implement a charter on your next project, try and use those headers and implement it as an organizational process asset update and a best practice overall.